everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Hack Check podcast. Before we go any further, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it far and wide. Please also look for our Spotify details in the description, and we hope you really enjoy the show. I'm really excited to welcome back Don Madge for part 2. This time in the studio.
Yep.
Welcome back, Don.
No, thanks for having me, man. I like the setup.
Yeah,
it's good.
Thank you very much. It's been almost like a year since we last spoke. Back then, you had like discussed about moving up to welterweight and doing the tournament for PFL. I was super excited when you announced that. What happened then with the injury exactly? Like what were you doing when you got injured, and like what exactly did you get injured that made you pull out?
So we were, I think it was 3 weeks out or 3.5 weeks out, and I was doing like my second last sparring session. So we're doing like Shark Tank rounds. So and I already have like a existing injury from my fight in 2019 in the UFC, and so I threw a shot, I hit an elbow, and I dislocated my two knuckles, and I have a pre-existing injury there on the ligament. So what happens? It retore. And so my hand was like buggered up. It was like super swollen. I couldn't really throw any shots. But anyway, I was like, cool, let's try and train
through it.
Try and train around it, you know. So I carried on training. The next week, running sprints, and overstepped, tore my hamstring, grade 3 tear. That was pretty painful. So then I was like, okay, cool, we're gonna have to call this because I can't run, I can't kick, I can't punch. Like it's not really going to be a good last 3 weeks for me, you know. So I had to call it. But I was trying to sort of train around the hand, you know. I knew it was bad, and I knew like whatever. But you know, I've done it before where I've had like an injury in a fight and just gone through. But you know, your hamstring. I don't know if you've ever torn your hamstring.
No, luckily not.
This is the first time I've done it, and it's by far one of the most painful injuries that I've had. I was very sore. And it was a distal tear, so like it's at the top where your glute meets your
ties in.
So it was pretty painful, and you know, I've only just been training now for the last like two months, and like the rehab on the hamstring was like quite extensive. It was a story, but yeah, I'm healthy now. I'm good to go. So back into training and back in the mix, so
ready to go.
Yeah, it's just like, dude, the last couple of years have just been like the worst luck possible for me. I just like, you know, is what it is. You know, you got to roll with the punches.
Yeah, it's part of the game, unfortunately. Yeah. But with the hamstring, like what you were describing now, so grade 3 is the worst tear, right?
Before it's off the bone.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. And I mean, did you know? You obviously knew straight away, like when you felt it.
To be honest, I was sprinting, and then it happened, and then I was like, oh no, something's wrong. Like, obviously, like I lost like complete like movement in the leg, and obviously I was still warm, so I was like, it feels like it's, you know, bad, but it's not. It doesn't feel too bad. And then as I started cooling down, I was like, oh my god, I can't walk. And then like that night, I just started pooling blood at the bottom of my. I posted like on Instagram like the blood on my leg, and it was just started like pooling blood, and I was like, oh shit, okay, this is obviously worse than what I thought. And then the next like day, I was like in agony. I could barely walk, couldn't like sit down properly. I had to like sit like on a cushion, and like it was it sucked. And then I went to my physio, and he was like, yeah, this is like
as bad as it gets.
This is pretty shit. Yeah, you're gonna have to rehab this one properly.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you know, it is what it is, and now the hamstrings back to standards now. I'm training again, running again, so everything's.
That's good to hear.
Everything looks good, yeah.
What were you doing? Were you doing any kind of physical activity once sort of like, obviously you do the rehab portion, which you can't do anything. And then how long was it before you were allowed to like roll or train or anything like that?
I think it was, I can't remember if it was 8 to 10 weeks. But my hand was 8 weeks that I wasn't allowed to do anything with. And then the hamstring was 8 to 10 weeks, and the rehab program for it, which I could only start like 4 weeks after once it had like settled down, was a 3-week process. It's like a 21-day program that Wade, my physio, gave me.
Yeah.
And And then like slowly like I started feeling good. And then he basically said like judge by the pain, you know, like if there's pain still, don't roll, you know. And then as the pain subsided and stuff, and I started feeling like strength in the hamstring, and then I started training like slowly. It was first just like a couple rounds with like the smaller guys, and then like just, you know, just easing my way into it, and then started lifting again, started doing like deadlifts and like just, you know, easing my way back into it, and then so
now
far
you're
so
going
good.
full steam. Was what was sort of like the PFL's reaction? I mean, I know it's an injury. So was there any like talk of them to say like push through, or was it just kind of like
so to be honest, like Ray Safer actually contacted me. He was like, hey man, listen, if in the second leg of the PFL, he was like, hey, there's been a couple guys that pulled out, if you can jump in, you know. So he was like super cool, and I was like, I'm still not even training yet, sorry man, like I would love to, but I can't, you know, because the fights are like 8 weeks apart basically. So I did 3 weeks out from the one fight, and then I had obviously extended my injury time because I tried to train around it. And so yeah, I mean they were super cool about it. They've been really, I mean, Ray Sefer was awesome. He's been super cool about the situation, and like, you know, I speak to him quite often. So when it happened, I was like, listen, this is what's happened. Like, I'm gonna go and see my physio and see like what we're looking at, and like, you know, hopefully it's not as bad as it looks. And obviously it turned out that it was quite shit. But yeah, I mean, they've been pretty cool, and you know, if I was able to jump in, I could have jumped back in, but unfortunately not now. They're in the playoffs now, so it's a bit late.
So you've got to wait till next year then to get back in, right?
Basically, you have to wait. I mean, there's like pros and cons to being in a tournament. You know, you get to potentially fight 4 times and make $1 million. Which also happened to me last year as well. I broke my foot.
Yeah,
and then you have
to
sit out and wait till the next year. So there's pros and cons, and I guess it's these types of things that you got to like, you know, weigh up when you make the decision. You know, I guess in hindsight, like with my fight last year, you know, you have to kind of think about like how you would strategize like each fight, because you want your first 2 fights to be as little damage as possible.
Yeah.
So that you can get to the playoffs. You know, I didn't really think about that. I was like, let's just kick this guy as many fucking times as I can.
Yeah.
Forget about the foot, you know, and because I've only ever had like 1 fight on a night, and then, you know, you recover and then you book another fight. It's the first time doing a tournament style in MMA for me. So I was just like, let's just kick this guy. I think I threw like 80 kicks. So I was like, let's just kick him as many times as I can.
Yeah, like you normally would.
So, you know, but you don't think like, oh shit, this is a tournament in 8 weeks, I've got to do it again. So if I break my foot, this isn't going to be great. So, you know, knowing that now, you know, your strategy for the first 2 fights is to take as little damage and put your body through as little damage as possible. So, you know, pros and cons, you know, you learn things and you strategize and you grow with the sport.
But overall, I mean, like the PFL is, I've seen, like, I don't watch it as much as probably I'll be honest, as like watch UFC, because like UFC is like every weekend basically. But overall, what they're doing is good, man. Like I think in a couple of years there can definitely be competition for UFC. I mean, the UFC is still the biggest show that there is.
Yeah,
it's not the be all and end all anymore.
Yeah.
And I mean, even Jake Paul joining forces with the PFL now, like it's still overall like you're weighing pros and cons. I mean, the pros still far outweigh the cons in the PFL.
Absolutely, yeah. And
I mean, if you then can, like you say, minimize the damage in the first 2 fights, get to the playoffs, I mean, you can win $1 million. It's guaranteed.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
You know, it's a cool setup, because if you get into the UFC, so if you think about any UFC, like UFC, Bellator, ONE FC, you're fighting like the best guys in the world. So like if you get a 4-fight win streak, you should in essence be fighting for a title, right? Like Drickus, you know, like Drickus got like 5 fights in a row, 6 fights in a row. I can't remember. Title fight. That's how it should play out, you know. But it's not always like that for everyone in the UFC. Sometimes you'll get guys that have like 12.
Tony Ferguson, dude, was like 12 fights.
Like, you know, they get on these huge streaks and they never get offered a title fight. Whereas with like the PFL, the great thing is that, you know, you get on a streak, you get a title fight, and you can become a world champion in 4 fights. So it's like, and you're fighting, you know, the best guys around. So it's like, it's not, it's a great opportunity if you do get the opportunity to be a part of the roster.
Who did they sign now? There was like I think she was a wrestler or a Olympic wrestler or.
I didn't see.
Yeah, so they because the PFL also signed like obviously Francis Ngannou, but then Clarissa Shields, right?
Yeah.
I mean that's a big deal to get them to sign with PFL.
Yeah, and I think Francis is like the head of the African sort of department for PFL.
Yes.
So like it's a huge deal. I mean, he's a superstar, and then Clarissa Shields is like arguably the greatest female boxer of all time. So now she's already fought in the PFL and she was successful. I think she's 2-1. She was in the season. I think she's 2-1. I can't remember. But yeah, I mean it's huge. You know, they're signing like, you know, names, and I guess like the big difference between like the UFC, which is obviously like the forerunner, is that they have like superstars. You know, like if you think about like Israel Adesanya, Dricus, Conor McGregor's, like they're superstars. And so now that the PFL is starting to bring in these types of guys and these types of people, you know, it's only like a good thing. You know, the more competition, the better.
Because Francis was a really big one. Because I mean, UFC heavyweight champion, turned out to be a free agent, but they also gave him a really good deal, which is like, I think a lot of people will start to look at the PFL like as a serious, you know, alternative, especially because they guarantee that cash ahead of time, and then like you say, after 4 fights, champion. You know, there's also that. I don't know if you know, or because I saw something about Jake Paul wanting to do like there's like a super fight division or something like that in PFL now. Do you know what it's about, like the super fight division?
So it's basically like the guys that aren't in the roster for like the season, and they'll just do like 1 fight deals.
Okay.
So, but it's always like, you know, mega like stars like Jake Paul, like Francis Ngannou, guys that'll take like single fight. They won't do like the season, so they won't have to do 4 fights and qualify. It's just single fight deals.
Okay, so then you don't have to like take away from the title. You can just have.
That's just the super fight title. Okay,
Okay, that's very, very cool, man. That's
which is cool because, you know, like if Jake Paul or Francis Ngannou had to fight in the PFL, you know, the amount of eyes that you're going to get on that is just like through the roof. So maybe not Jake Paul, but Francis Ngannou.
Hey, you never know, dude. Yeah, like Francis Ngannou, of course. I mean, like, but Jake Paul, like, people can say what they want about him. Like, he's actually stepped up.
Yeah, man.
And
he's 8-1 as a professional boxer. I mean,
and now he wants to fight Nate Diaz. I mean, if it's on Jake's terms, that could be in PFL.
Yeah, I mean,
having Nate Diaz in the PFL.
I mean, look, I don't think that is actually ever going to happen. Jake and I think Jake's just talking. I don't think he's really going to fight Nate Diaz in MMA.
Okay,
but he'll definitely have an MMA fight in the PFL though. I can believe that, and I think they will build him. They're not going to give guys that are going to like
just take him in the first one. Yeah,
and I think Nate would be a tough first match in your first MMA fight.
Yeah, even if Nate weighs like even if you do it at 185, like Jake Paul's a big 185, and Nate's
I just think the grappling, you know, I don't think the grappling you can catch up with the grappling that quickly as you can with the boxing.
Especially not Nate Diaz, dude. That guy's like a flippin'. That guy's hard for anybody to grapple with.
Yeah, exactly.
Let alone like Jake Paul. There's a video of him on Jake Paul on YouTube going like, I don't know if it's a Division 1 wrestler or something. It's years back. And then he's like, they did a bit of stand-up and whatever. This is like when he was still at Disney before he actually became decent at boxing. And then he grappled with this like Division 1 wrestler and he just got smoked. Like, completely smoked. And we saw Logan and Izzy now as well, like completely.
No, I mean, like there's you know how it is. You train jiu-jitsu, like there's a big fundamental difference between a good beginner and an experienced black belt.
Yeah, big.
Like there's just like there's such a huge gap there. Even if like if Jake was like a Division 1 wrestler, it would be a different story. Because you know you can be a scrub white belt, but be a D1 wrestler, and you can handle yourself. But an experienced black belt versus a non-grappler beginner,
that gap is just way too big. Unless you're like you said, like a Bo Nickel or whatever.
Exactly.
That's like,
exactly. And even Bo Nichols, I think he's like a brown belt in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, and he's like an Olympic
level wrestler.
You know, it's that you can kind of skip the bouts, you know, when you become an Olympic. I was talking about it the other day, like to qualify for the Olympics is one thing, but to win a medal at the Olympics is like probably the hardest athletic endeavor to do. You know, like So when you go up against like an Olympic judoka, an Olympic boxer, an Olympic wrestler, when they've got either one of those three martial arts like backgrounds at an Olympic level, it kind of bypasses the other things. Like if you're an Olympic level judoka and you're going up against like a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, I'm looking at that as like quite an even fight. You know what I mean? Like that's not like, oh no, he's a white belt in jiu-jitsu. It's like, no, that guy's like Ronda Rousey was a perfect example. She just smoked everyone because you're in a gold medalist in the Olympics. If you look at like all the boxers that have won gold at the Olympics, like Lomachenko, Usyk, like they, you can
different level,
you can
man.
just see the skill levels. Like it's just when they come through the pro ranks, you can just see the fundamentals are so good.
Yeah, especially in the gi, like you can feel straight away when someone's done judo. Like in the gi, like you just feel the grip strength and like.
Yeah.
My worst is when I actually know a guy is a black belt in judo but a white belt in jiu-jitsu. So like you go there and he's like, when it's in a jiu-jitsu setting, he's got his white belt on and you're like, you can't even stand. You can't stand with the guy because it's just like,
and they're like unsweepable.
Yeah, exactly. And then like their base is so strong and their grip strength and everything is just it's mad, man.
And like I still think like judo is like one of the like hardest sports. Like just the whole goal of judo is to slam someone onto the ground. Like if people like understand, it's like boxing. It's like the whole point is to punch this guy as hard as you can in the head. That's the sport. The sport is
as
throwing someone
onto
the ground. It's a tough sport. It's a really tough sport. I've got a lot of respect for like high level judokas.
Yeah. I want to ask you about because also in this last year, man, so much has happened, man. Like you guys moved your premises as well now. I chatted to Matt a little bit about it and everything, but what was that whole like experience like moving to obviously now bigger premises and everything? You'd done it before starting, which has its own difficulties, but like what was the process like going to new premises?
It's actually been like crazy. Like when we started, we had no intentions of having like a massive martial arts gym. It was just we got an opportunity, little studio, we took it. Then literally like the week that our lease was expiring at the little studio, we got offered the old premises, and then we took it. And then as we were going through there, we got offered the downstairs and we took it. It was just like opportunities just came and we just took them. And now the same thing happened. Our lease was coming to an end. And they were like, hey, we've got this other space like right around the corner, the same landlord. And they were like, it's been sitting empty. Why don't you guys take it? We're like, okay, cool.
Why not?
We'll take it. Perfect. So like, it's just been like opportunities, and it's like almost like the universe is just like telling you like little things, like giving you little hints, and you're just taking them, And so yeah, like like moving is always a story. But it was really, really cool. Like we got all the community involved. We got all the guys to come and help. And we're like carrying and we're painting, and it was cool, man. We all got stuck in, and I feel like everyone that was a part of it feels like it's a little part of their like facility now, because they all like gave like a helping hand. And so we're having an event now on the 2nd of September for like amateur MMA, amateur boxing, amateur Muay Thai, and we obviously, Matt and I have done everything from scratch. We don't have like investors behind us. We don't have sponsors. We don't have that stuff. So we put on these like little shows and we reinvest it back into the gym so that we can keep providing like the best facilities for the members and the community. So, we're in the process of building a full-size training cage. So we'll have a like an octagon basically, or a hexagon inside of the gym. We've got 2 boxing rings. We're adding to our mat space. We'll have 300 something square meters of mat space. We've got conditioning section downstairs. We've got coffee. We're going to have a recovery center in there. But everything takes time, and when Rome wasn't built in a day. And I think like in the 8 years that it's taken us to get to where we are now, that was all just like learning. And like now we've like learned all the lessons that we need, and now we're just gonna, the next 8 years or the next 10 years are gonna be impressive. Yeah,
bigger and better every time.
Exactly.
Man. Are you guys planning to have like, because Matt said he wanted, there's like a vision for you to have people come train in South Africa, and like do their fight camps out of South Africa.
Yeah.
Is that something that you're gonna start like, You know, like Chris, like Cyborg, for example, like,
yeah.
do you think there's a chance she'll ever come to a camp here, like a full camp, and then train out of South Africa?
Absolutely. I think like what we're trying to do is like do what Phuket has done, you know, where it becomes a destination for people to travel to. It's inexpensive compared to the dollar and the pound and the euro. So you can travel here, you can live relatively cheap, you can train relatively inexpensive compared to if you go to California or whatever.
Oh yeah, of
and
course.
You can get high quality training. You know, I think everyone's starting to see now that South African MMA is
on
legit.
a level.
It's not like, oh, we think it's like, no, we know where we are. We know what our level is. You can see now like guys coming through like Drickus and Cameron and JP and myself, and like we've all like kind of paved the way, and now you got the guys you know, sort of leading the forefront, and like Drickus now is going to be fighting for a title. I mean, it's like unprecedented. You know? You got BK as well, who's about to fight for a title as well in ONE FC. So guys are starting to look at us as like a real place to sort of develop fighting, and I think that's what Matt and I have been thinking about, and that's kind of like our big vision for MadFit, is to build a facility that is the same standard as an international facility. Like, you know, I've been to like Sanford MMA. I've been to the Ruka facility. Like I've been to a lot of like really good training facilities, and I think our vision is to build something like that within Cape Town, so that guys from overseas will come and train and potentially do their camps here and start looking at South African MMA as like a place to you know, base themselves out of.
Yeah, I mean, like we said it last time, like you blazed the trail in the beginning and still are, and I still think like, you know, you're still gonna have a title, whether it's PFL or wherever. I still think you'll be a champion in a big organization. I think if Drickus and Izzy fight, whether it's Izzy or maybe, I don't know, maybe Izzy retires and Hamzat, the winner of Hamzat and Paulo Costa fight for a vacant title against Drickus, BK, Cameron Simon, I think is also going to be a champion one day as well. I mean, there's just going to be everybody like, if you got 4, 5, 6 champions. I mean, Chad Hannekom's also going to the Contender Series now as well, isn't he?
8th of September or 5th of September,
Yeah, then there's UAE Warriors. Like, there's so many options. But like now, the nice thing is, like you say, before it was kind of like, I mean, when you were even a couple of years back when you were going through, it was so hard to get to the UFC. But now there's like a guided path for everybody to go through. And the more people start to become champions and have these big fights, the more the world is going to be like, okay, South Africa, you know, 100%. Let's go. These guys have something different.
100%.
I mean, you've got a lot of attributes that people in the international scene don't have. Drickus, Cameron, name anybody, BK, like people are going to start seeing that and go, okay, shit, I also want to get like,
100%.
I want to get that as well.
100%. I think like that's, you know, if you look at like Africa in terms of just like raw talent alone, it's probably the highest resource of natural talent in the world. The only thing that we've been lacking up until now is the technical ability. And if guys forget, like we're only in like the 2nd, 3rd generation of MMA.
Yeah.
If you look at the US, for instance, they're like 6, 7 generations 8, already. You know, like they're already well like developed. We're only in our 3rd, and we've got guys fighting for titles. We've got guys in the top 5. We've got guys, you know, like are legitimate contenders. So if you think about that, and you think about where we're going to be in, you know, phase 7, phase 8.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's basically, it'll be an all African roster, in my opinion. You know, you're going to start to see it, and you're starting to see guys come through the ranks. You know, especially like guys that are from Africa, and as we start to develop the training systems and the technical aspects and the like sort of infrastructure of like MMA in South Africa and in Africa in general, I think guys are going to start looking at Africa as like the mecca of fighting, just like Russia and Dagestan have started to come out as like the mecca of like where killers are from, like real fighters are from. I think Africa is going to become the next place, and South Africa especially is going to become the next place, because, you know, it is like, I mean, I have a lot of friends that are, you know, Afrikaans rugby boys. You know how hard they're hard motherfuckers. Yeah, like, it's just like a farm boy is no joke. A farm boy is no joke, and you get a strong farm boy and get him into MMA, young and nice and young.
Yeah,
it's a different person you're facing when you step in there with them, and I think we're starting to see that. You see a guy like Drickus, a young, strong Afrikaans boy,
yeah, farm boys,
zero given, he's there to fight, and he's doing exceptionally well. And I think, now that we're up to that sort of international level of technical ability and training ability, I think the future's really, really exciting. And I think that's what myself and Matt are looking at. We're saying, cool, we're not thinking about right now. We're thinking about 10 years from now. 10 years from now, what's the landscape going to look like?
Yeah.
And that's what we need to focus on. Focus on building that.
Position yourself, have everything ready for when it comes.
Exactly. So like now, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to start from the ground up, and we're trying to develop the young fighters, like the amateur fighters, the amateur boxers, the amateur MMA fighters, the amateur Muay Thai fighters. We try to build them from the ground up and give all the years of training and all the experience and all the stuff that, when I started MMA, like there was no like structure, and there was no, it was just like, okay, do this, okay, spar.
Yeah.
Now, like there's structures, there's techniques, there's things that we've learned over years and years of training. And guys, the stuff guys are learning now, we weren't learning that when we started. When I started jiu-jitsu, I wasn't learning like some of the shit that the guys are learning now.
Yeah, blue belts are like,
blue belts are
crazy
killers,
now. Yeah.
So it's like, if you look at that, I think 10 years from now, man, we're gonna be we're gonna see some killers come through.
And I think also like what you mentioned with Francis Ngannou with PFL Africa, there's talk of UFC Africa. I don't know if one, probably, I don't know if I'm imagining it, or if one was also talking about something to do with an African event as well. I think BK and I were actually talking about it as well. And then when that starts to happen, people start to come to South Africa. They should come once. That's all. Like if you come once and you can see the level, okay, people can see the level already with the fighters, but like you can see that it's actually not what you see on the news. Like it's not as bad as you think it is.
100%.
Like this, if you go to, like my wife went to Bali the one year, and there's a bunch of Australian people that were there, and they were like, what the hell are you doing in Bali? It's like you live in Cape Town.
Yeah.
Like you've got like the most beautiful part of the world, basically.
Yeah.
So the tourism, it's cheap, like you said. I mean, people just got to come once.
100%.
And then maybe, like the UFC, PFL, whatever, like build a PI.
Yeah.
And start maybe working with the gyms, to feed fighters through or something 100%. Like that. I mean, yeah, I'm excited. In 10 years, we're there,
And I think like that's what you saw happen in like the US, and then soon after that, that's what happened in Europe. And it started happening in Europe. You got like Michael Bisping coming through, and then attention brought to the UK fighters. And then you get like the Russian guys coming through, and now all the attention is brought onto the Russian guys, and now the African guys are coming through, and now the attention is being brought to the African fighters. And like as that happens, you just keep developing, and it's going to be really exciting, man. I'm super excited to see what the future holds in terms of South African MMA.
And tell me now, just on Chad going through. I mean, he was on a tear. He was in Brave, hey?
Yeah.
I keep Brave and UAE Warriors
Brave,
always I confuse the two in Brave. I think when his last fight, I think was the elbow when he knocked it. Yeah, that was awesome, dude. Like I still checked that. I was like, shit, okay.
Yeah, that was crazy.
You said he's fighting in September.
I think it's the 5th of September. I could be wrong, or the 8th. I can't remember.
Are you gonna like help him with his camp at all, or is it gonna be more up with Richie Kwan?
No, he's training there with Rich. I was actually up in Johannesburg 2 weeks ago, and I just went up to go just visit and say hi. And I was we obviously trained together, and we were doing some like grappling and stuff. I wish I could go there and be there to help, but obviously MadFit, family, little boy, my little guy's 2 years old in the month, so crazy, it's hands on, man. It's hands on. Yeah,
2 already, dude.
Yeah, he's
and his personality's starting to come out now.
Yeah, he's a little machine, bro. He's just a little champ. He just wants to be involved, and he's a handful.
Yeah. So now going forward, you don't know obviously when your next fight is or anything like that. So you gonna wait, or you don't know yet?
So like obviously I've spoken to Tim and my manager, and we're obviously discussing options, and we're busy in the works with something, and
when the time comes.
Hopefully, it will be announced soon, and we'll be able to make it public. But you know, I'm hoping to get one before the end of the year. Like that's my goal, because I don't want to have to wait until next year. You know, like that's too long, man. It's just it's also
you want to be active, you know, all the time.
It's just frustrating as well. Like, you know, you get so close to getting to compete, and then like you have to be sidelined and you have to sit again. It's like, and then you're like watching other guys compete. You're like, I want to do that too, you know. And it's like, so yeah, it's been frustrating, but yeah, I just gotta try and like, I'm just trying to keep my mind focused on, like, you know, one day at a time, and when the opportunity comes, we'll take it.
Yeah, just got to do the things that you have to do every single day.
Exactly, yeah. And I think like the biggest lesson for me now is you know, taking care of my body. Like I've never been good at resting and like recovery and maintenance. I've never been very good with that. But I think it's time to.
I was going to ask you if you change anything, like, you know, with your. You're focusing more on recovery now?
Yeah, I'm focusing more on like on obviously like keeping my body in better shape. You know, like not necessarily just shape as in like how fit you are and how strong you are. More like from a maintenance perspective, like, you know, regular checkups with the physio, mobility work, making sure that, you know, I'm not overtraining, because that's also like my biggest problem is that I train too much. You know, sometimes like I have to, like my wife and I have a deal now. You know, she's gonna tell me like, okay, you're doing too much now, and you gotta pull back. Okay, no, you're not feeling well, you can't go to training. You know, like sometimes you need that person.
Yeah,
sometimes you need that person just to be like, hey,
yeah,
you need to step back a little bit. So
and your wife's always going to be straight with you. That's the nice thing. Like you'll get an honest answer from them, you know?
Exactly, yeah. So I think like my main focus now is, you know, I work hard already, and I'm always working on skills. It's not like I'm just like fit and in shape, you know. I'm always working on my skills, but the thing that I do need to focus on now is maintenance, and so that's my main focus on now. And so if I feel like if I can get that right, you know, I can start getting some momentum going again.
How long do you think you need for a camp? If you
8
how long
weeks,
do you usually take?
10 weeks, yeah.
8 to 10 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it'd be good to get a fight, like, because I can imagine having to be like you want to be active as much as possible. I know that's exactly why you joined PFL as well. But you know, it must be it's probably tough now without like an actual date set, like to just keep training, you know.
Yeah, you know, like luckily, you know, my sort of martial arts like journey has always been just about being a martial artist and you know, doing martial arts every day, and it's not necessarily about when the fight is or when you're preparing for a fight. You train, you're always training. You know, so I'm always training. Obviously, when there's a fight coming up, you obviously adapt your training to the specific fight. But I'm always training, so like, you know, I'm always trying to improve, you know. And I find that a lot of fighters don't do that. They don't train like between fights as much as they train just when they have a fight. And then but I think especially like for like younger fighters, like you make the most gains between fights, like in terms of skills. Like that's when you make the most, because you're not in camp, you're not really trying to learn new stuff. You're trying to sharpen what you got, you know, and maybe like iron out some of the weaknesses. But then the gaps between fights is where you like learning, you know, you're learning new things, you're trying new things, because you don't have anything to train for.
There's no pressure as well to
exactly.
With a focused game plan, right?
Exactly. So you can experiment with different things. And I think like that's something that I've always tried to like keep in my mind. It's like, okay, you can't fight now, but it's fine. Now you got an opportunity to get better at this, or get better at that, or improve on that, or focus more on this. And so, you know, it's a mindset that I've always had throughout my life, is that even if you don't have a fight, you train because you need to get better. You know, like and that's just how it is. And then when you get into a fight, it's just about taking what you have and sharpening it so that you're precise. And that's kind of my approach with fight camps.
And then like picking which of the tools that you have to like specifically for your opponent.
Exactly.
So if you don't get a fight before next year, I know last time you said you might want to look at doing like a super fight for Sub Kings or something like that. Would you still
Yeah,
be interested
absolutely. I
in
mean, I've always had like the goal of, so obviously I did Muay Thai, achieved what I wanted to achieve there. With MMA, I still would like to win a world title. That's still like
and I think you will.
That's still on my radar. Once I've done that and I've achieved what I want to do there, my next focus will be becoming a world champion in jiu-jitsu. So like that'll be my next focus. So that's definitely something that I would like to start doing. My only thing with that is, you know, if I'm training for a sub kings match and I get injured, or if I have a match and I get injured and then I can't take an MMA fight, I'll lose my mind. So I when I first started MMA, I got offered a fight in Glory when it was like just starting. And my brother was managing me at the time, and I said to him, I was like, and they offered me, it was like pretty good money at the time. And I said to him, I was like, hey, I just got this fight offer for Glory kickboxing, you know, and like I came from a kickboxing background, so I'm like,
no brainer.
And he's like, hey, what is your goal? And I said, what do you mean? He was like, you started MMA, what did you want to do? Become a champion? And I was like, yeah. He's like, is that going to get you closer to your goal, or is it not? And I was like, probably not. You know, it's going to get me closer to a kickboxing title than it will for an MMA title. And you know, I always remember that when I think about like doing all these other things, like I've been offered like boxing fights and stuff like that. And I'm always thinking like, but if we get offered MMA fights and I get cut doing a Muay Thai fight or a boxing fight, or I get my ACL torn in a grappling comp.
Yeah, for freaking heel hook or some shit.
Yeah, like exactly. Or something just like a freak accident, you know, you never know. And then you get offered a top 10 fight in whatever organization, and then you can't take it. Like, how would that affect your overall goal, you know? So as much as I would like to do it, you know, until I know like what I'm doing with my MMA career, that's my main focus. And once I know what I'm doing there, then I can do all the other things around that, you know.
So would you wouldn't ever go back? I know you said you wanted to box as well, so it'd be jiu-jitsu world champion, then obviously after MMA, you wouldn't ever go back to like kickbox. Like if Glory offered you something afterwards, would you ever consider it again, or are you done with that?
No, I think to be honest, I think like I would have, you know, I would have gone into boxing for sure. There was actually a point in time where Matt and I were going to turn me pro for boxing. It was right after I fought Boyd. Because that camp, basically I just boxed and we basically did a boxing camp for that whole camp. And I was getting like a bit frustrated about where I was in terms of like my MMA career and like and stuff. And he was like, hey, we can get you, you know, a title in boxing quickly. And we were this close. And then I got offered another title fight. So I was like, let's go, you know. And then I kept remembering my brother in my back. The goal. Back, you know, what's your goal? And I was like, okay, that's the goal. So no, I think my next focus would definitely be jiu-jitsu. And I also think like, you know, I've always set sort of like deadlines for myself in my career. And I've been like, okay, when I started MMA, I said, cool, before 25, I want to become a champion.
That happened. Champion. Yeah.
And I said, okay, cool. Before I'm 30, I need to be in the UFC. That happened. And now I'm saying, okay, cool. Once after 35, 36, you can't be fighting MMA anymore. Like that's, you know, you've taken your window. That's your window of your prime. Now you don't want to wait. But in jiu-jitsu, you can still compete because you have masters divisions and you have all that stuff. So you can still go and do that. You got like guys like Cyborg, who's like 40 years old, and he's like he'd suck to grapple. You know what I mean?
Big time.
And so like you can still do that. So I think like in terms of like striking sports, you know, past 35, 36, it's more of a younger guy sport. You know, like I don't think anyone going. Like you see it with like Nate Diaz, you know, like if Nate Diaz was still 25 against Jake Paul, probably be a different boxing match. But like he's like what, 30, 34, 35 now?
He might be older.
Maybe 36, 37, and he's trying to box against a 20-something year old. Like it's not smart for me, I don't think. But jiu-jitsu I see as an opportunity, you know, to win another world title in another sport. And I think in terms of like as a South African, you know, to be able to win titles in Muay Thai, titles in MMA, and then titles in Jiu-Jitsu, you know, to be able to say that you've done all that, and as a martial artist, be able to say, like, as an MMA fighter, you started as a Muay Thai fighter, became a champion, became an MMA fighter, became a champion.
Yeah.
You went away from kickboxing, went to Jiu-Jitsu and became a world champion there, you know. So like, I think for me and my like sort of legacy, that's something that I would like to do.
That's sick, man. I don't know actually, like, I mean, even on a world stage, like, how many people can say that they've done that?
Yeah. So that's kind of my sort of path of the rest of my martial arts career. And then, you know, obviously just carry on with bringing up the next generation of fighters.
What is that next generation looking like so far?
Good. Really good.
Yeah.
You know, like I was saying earlier, is that, you know, the guys are getting like a head start. You know, they're learning the stuff that works today, not stuff that worked 10 years ago. They're learning stuff that works today. They're getting to train with guys that have done it. You know, like in my gym, at least, I train with everybody. You know, I roll with everybody. I spar with everybody. I mean, in terms of guys who want to fight, you know, like. So guys are getting, like, when I started, you know, to get a world class level fighter to spar with was impossible.
Yeah.
Impossible. You know, these guys have access to, like,
they're starting with it.
Exactly. Like, if you look at like Team CIT, you know, those guys are getting to spar with guys that are in the UFC right now. So all their sparring, all their training is with a guy in the UFC. At my gym, you've got myself. I've been in the UFC. I'm in the PFL now. BK is in 1FC.
Yeah.
Those guys are getting to spar with guys that are in those organizations, and so they're in a head start. So I think, like, you know, like I said, in the next 10 years, you're going to start to see some real killers come through, and I'm here for it. I'm here to watch all the smoke.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, I can't remember who I was talking to the other day. It was like about the kids jiu-jitsu, like just in jiu-jitsu sense.
Unreal.
Like what kids are doing these days.
It's crazy.
It's madness. I mean, like, and then we look at, like, okay, again, in the jiu-jitsu sense, because that's my, like,
yeah.
I'm not in MMA. I mean, I follow MMA, but like, just what people are doing, man. But actually, no, even in MMA, like, I was watching the IMMAF, some of the people I know were fighting there, and people like 16, 17, it's like no holes in their game at all.
Yeah.
You know, and like back in like even 5-10 years ago, you would have like, okay, this is a kickboxing background, a jiu-jitsu background, like, you know, you'd know, there's still some fighters that are like that, but like, you'd know, okay, if you're just like tough against this person, push them up against the cage, like, just be really like in their space, they're not going to be 100% comfortable.
Yeah.
And now it's like, you can't even, I mean, people got zero holes in their game.
That's it, man. And that is the future of MMA. You know, like, I think all of that sort of started around the time of like guys like Rory McDonald. That's like when that like sort of hybrid fighter started. And like, that was ages ago. I mean, that was 11, 13 years ago. I mean, I don't even know how long when it's been since he started. So like all those kids, like, I remember, I was like 20 odd when Rory McDonald was fighting. I was watching him and I was like, holy shit. Like, he can do everything. He can wrestle, he can strike, he's good on the ground. And you could just see the way that he like shone, you know. Nowadays, that's everyone.
That's the standard.
That's everybody. Everybody can grapple. Everyone can strike. Everyone's fit. Everyone's strong. That's the new generation, and I think like that is ultimately what MMA is. You know, you're not a striker. You're not a grappler. You're an MMA fighter. Like you have to do everything. You have to be able to do everything at a world level. Like, you should be able to grapple with the best grapplers. You should be able to strike with the best strikers. You should be able to wrestle with the best wrestlers. You should be able to do that. That is where you need to be. And the most important thing is you should be able to put everything together. And like, that's the hardest part of MMA. And that's where guys kind of like specialize into one thing. Because putting everything together, going from like a striking exchange to defending a takedown to attacking a submission, then defending a submission, and then getting back to your feet, going straight back into a striking exchange, that series of events can happen in like 15 seconds. Yeah. And that's the most difficult part of MMA.
Putting everything together.
That in 15 seconds, you're having like 4 different sports all happen at once. And it's like,
you got to be comfortable everywhere. You got to know everything.
That's it.
Everything everywhere. Yeah, I spoke to BK earlier this year, then he had his fight and that. And I want to still speak to him again and everything, but what do you know? Like, is there any word of like when he's going to fight again? Is there anything? Can you say anything?
So I think he was. There was talks about maybe fighting in September, but then they wouldn't offer him the Brooks fight. So I think he's waiting to get the Brooks fight because obviously he wants to fight for the title.
Well, that makes sense, actually.
Exactly. Like, there's no point. He's beaten the number 3. He's beaten the number 4, number 3, and the number 5 guy. He's the number one contender. I think there's Pascal, who's the other guy. But he's coming off a loss against Jared Brooks, and BK lost, but now he's got a win. So he should be the next guy to fight Jared Brooks. And so I understand, like, he wants to sit until he gets the title shot. And I think that's the right thing to do. Obviously, if you want to stay active, you can take a fight against like a Pascal or whatever, but
why? What's the point?
Like, how this game is. You make one mistake.
Exactly.
Now you're back at the bottom. Now you got to take another 3 fights before you get a title shot. And I think BK can beat Jared Brooks 100%. This that fight that he had, it was like I don't know if he spoke about the backstory of that fight. Like, he had to cut weight like 4 times. He had to make weight the day of his fight as well. Yeah, so
really?
The morning of the fight, he had to make the weight because he hadn't made it the day before because of the hydration test.
Oh, okay.
So then he had to do it again on the morning of the fight. So, and then all the anxiety and the stress of doing all that, it plays on you, and you could see it the way he fought. He was very like uncomfortable and very stiff. And so I think that played. And I think now, I mean, I was with him for his last one, and I knew how to beat the hydration test. It's such a stupid system because guys are still cutting weight. Every single person there is cutting weight.
Yeah,
all of them. You sit there and you watch every single guy in the sweatsuit just draining themselves. But there's a very, very easy way to beat that test. We figured it out now, and so like now I don't think that's going to be a problem for BK anymore. So, that I think that was the major thing that happened in that first fight, is that the anxiety of the making weight and passing hydration, that he wasn't actually focusing on the fight anymore. It was more about passing hydration, which like
it shouldn't be the focus.
Yeah, like Dustin Poirier spoke about it when he was fighting at featherweight. His whole camp was losing weight. He was focusing only on losing weight and not getting ready for a fight. And if you think how insane that is, you're about to step into a cage to fight somebody, and you're thinking about like a piss test. Like it makes no sense.
Dude, the stress behind that, like,
makes no sense.
Yo, dude. And then when you're stressing, it's harder to cut weight in any event.
Exactly. You're not thinking about the fight, you're just thinking like, okay, now I'm fighting. It's like, what?
It's like an afterthought,
Yeah, exactly.
You're like just so relieved to make the weight, and then like the afterthought of fighting. So like we were talking a little bit off camera about Dustin Poirier, like he's now also looking at going up, and you said like it should be a natural progression. Do you think, like, I mean, for yourself, you said like you could feel like when you have to cut when you're at lightweight, like that cut, like is there, because people cut a lot of weight, like I mean, even I don't know what the right way is to like do it, because if you cut too much weight, like your chin could be weaker. If you're an idiot like Paddy Pimblett and you go and get to like 220 pounds, your literal camp is just to cut weight. That's all it is. Like you don't get better between fights. Like, is there an answer for this whole like weight cut? I don't want to say issue, but like, what do you like? Is there a good way to go about it? I mean, should people just weigh in? It's year round, or like what? I mean,
it's so specific to the person, Like I think like a lot of factors go into it. Like if you look at someone like Michael Chandler, who's so muscular, like for a guy like him, maybe cutting 15 kilograms is okay because his body can lose more water. But then if you look at a guy like Paddy Pimblett, who isn't very muscular and he's cutting the same amount of weight, maybe he's doing something wrong. He should be keeping his weight at a lower thing. But I know, like I was saying before we went live, we were in boxing, you see it. You see the guys start at like featherweight and gradually make their way up to like lightweight, and then they start moving up to a welterweight, and you just gradually move it up and then move up the divisions. Because as you get older, you know how it is. You attain more muscle mass. It becomes like dense, like mature muscle. And also, with age, it's harder to lose body fat.
Oh yeah.
it just slowly stays on a
Metabolism
little
just
bit longer.
deserts you.
A little bit longer. And so, it's a natural progression to get heavier, it's just how it is. And I think the way that the boxers do it is the right way. You start when you like in 18 and you like a little skinny weed, you start at a light division.
Yeah.
And as you start getting more muscular and becoming more of a man, you develop and you become, you gradually move up. I think the problem with MMA is the weight categories are so far split.
Yeah.
That it's, it's such a weird thing because the way ONE FC do it is they actually work within the category, because the category, if you look at welterweight, for instance, the limit for welterweight technically should be 83.9 kgs because 84 kilograms would be middleweight. So anywhere from 77 to 83.9 would technically be a welterweight because 77 is the lowest of a welterweight.
Yeah.
So, and that's how ONE FC do it. If you fight in welterweight, you have to be under 185 pounds, which is because middleweight's 185 pounds.
Yeah.
So I think like if there was maybe that sort of system, or
more divisions
every 10 pounds, like every 5.5 kgs, you had that you get guys cutting a lot less weights. I know, for instance, myself, if there was a division between lightweight and welterweight, that would be me right there.
Yeah, like a 160 or
that'd
165.
be me right there, perfect. Because at welterweights, I've had to, obviously, now that I've taken the step up to welterweight, I've had to put on a lot more muscle. I've had to just to.
Because the guys are much bigger, obviously.
They're big guys, I mean, Drickus used to fight at welterweight, and he's massive. He's a big guy. Then if you look at like a guy like Chad Honeycomb, he is a monster of a man, and he's one division above where I'm going to be now. He's huge. He's a monster. Israel Adesanya, Alex Pereira, like they're massive guys, and they're one division up. So. If there was a division between lightweights and welterweights, that would be me right there, because then I wouldn't have to put on extra.
Yeah, and you
I just would have to cut less.
Much. Yeah,
because I've always when I was fighting lightweight, to get to 75, 76 kgs was relatively easy. It was easy. It was getting from 76 to 70 that killed me. That was brutal. That was the one that's the one that was too difficult. Even like up until recent, like to get to 76, 77, easy, super easy. But going below that is where it really like kills you. And I think like that's the issue with MMA at the moment. But if you had just every 10 pounds, 125, 135, 145, 155, 165, 175, you just moved it up like that, it would solve all the problems of weight cutting. Because like we were saying, I never cut weights in Muay Thai. In Muay Thai, it was like 2 kilos was a lot, you put on plastics and you run.
Yeah, sweat it out.
Then when I got into MMA, my first ever fight, I only cut like 6 kilograms. I was skinny. Second fight, same thing. I basically dieted all the way down to weight. Third fight, same thing. And then my fourth fight, I was going to fight Costa. And I knew how strong and physical he was, so I had to get into it. I had never done any strength training in my life. I'd only ever just done martial arts. That was when I began strength training. And obviously, how it is, like your beginner gains, you get muscular quick, you get big quick. And so that's what happened. And then after that, it was like that was the first time I'd ever like cut weight. And I cut 13 kilograms. It was a monster of a cut. And ever since then, it's been 12, 13 kgs from the beginning of camp, then 14 kgs, then 15 kgs, 16, 17, 18, 20, like starts to become a lot. And every time you do that weight cut, as the fights go on, you feel the shots affect you differently to how they affected you
when
before.
You didn't have to do it.
Exactly. Like when I first started MMA, I would just eat punches, just like, because I wasn't cutting any weight. It wasn't like I was dehydrating at all. I was just dieting down to weight. And if you ask anyone that's ever been in training camp with me or trained with me, in sparring, I've never ever been dropped, never been wobbled, never buckled, nothing, never ever. And it's because I'm always hydrated and at normal weight.
Yeah.
But then, if you ask me and how the fights have gone in terms of the last 5-6 fights, you know, yeah, you can feel the shots feel different, and it's because of the weight cuts. Like 1000%, you can feel it. I mean, I've blacked out from training, from cutting weight. Yeah, man.
Really?
I've blacked out a few times. It's
shit. Were you like that dehydrated or what?
Yeah. So like you, I mean, I've gotten up, fallen from cutting. I've gotten out of like a bath, like sweating, blacked out.
Hectic.
Blacked out in the sauna, like, you know.
Shit. Yeah, that's sort of popped to mind when you said blacked out. I thought sauna. I was like,
No,
because like at the best of times when you sit in the sauna long enough, you feel like a little bit woozy.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've blacked out a couple times from cutting weights. You know, I think that the last time was my title fight in the EFC, my last one, and I made weights in the bath, got out to like recover, and just blacked out. And I woke up and everyone was like standing above me, like, "Are you okay?" I'm like,
"What happened?
What just happened?" Yeah, but I mean, you know, like that there should have been my sign to be like, "Hey, move up a division," because
not worth it.
Clearly, it's becoming a bit too difficult now for you, you know. And obviously, I'm stubborn and stupid, so I carry on fighting at that division, you know. And only now, like recently, I'm like, "Okay, you know what?" I spoke to Rich about it. I spoke to my manager about it. I spoke to my brother. I spoke to Matt about it. And I'm like, you know, I naturally go up to like 88, 89 kilograms. It's just, I don't have to try hard to get there. You know, even when before I like started making the decision to go to welterweights, it's just, I would just get there. It's just where I would get. If I was like taking 2-3 weeks of training and just like living normally, 88 kilograms, no problem. I'm like, why am I cutting down to lightweight? 18 kilograms makes no sense. Jeez. Where you can do a 10 kg cut and you can be at the next division. You know? And so it was just like a no-brainer for me. And you know, I think I should have done it sooner. But you know, what's done is done. And
but at least you're doing it now. You know, like it's worked for a lot of people. Like I mean, even I know Donald Cerrone went up and down between weight division, but when he first got to 170, he was like a complete wizard at 170. I think Rafael Dos Anjos was better at 170 as well. He's still there now. Like it's a lot better. Like you can feel stronger. You can take shots a lot better now.
Oliveira is probably the best example.
Yeah.
You know, he went from featherweight. He was shit at featherweight. Everyone was stopping him.
Yeah, that's where most of his losses come from.
Yeah, he was just getting smashed at featherweight. Dustin Poirier as well went from featherweight to light. Best he's ever been.
Yeah. Remember TJ Dillashaw and Cejudo when TJ Dillashaw did that hectic cut?
Yeah, man. I mean, he couldn't even take a shot. I mean, he like wilted, you know, like
that guy looked half dead. Dude.
Yeah. It's like the thing of even like Alex Pereira now, like he's going up to light heavyweights. It's because the guy's walking around like 230. You know, like he's a monster of a man. Like to cut to 185 just doesn't make sense. You know? And like I've spoken to Tim about Izzy, and like Izzy doesn't get that big. He doesn't get like 220, you know. He doesn't get that big. He gets to like, you know, 205, you know, 210 maybe, and then he cuts down, which is like decent.
That's good.
You know?
Yeah,
it's like a 10 kg like cut. You know, it's like not the end of the world. Especially when you're that big.
So the cut becomes the afterthought in the training camp is first, rather than the other way around.
Exactly. You want to focus on performance, you know. And I think like guys like Volkanovski. You saw Volkanovski at lightweight. I mean.
Yes, dude, that was such a good fight.
He looked unreal.
Yeah.
I mean, he looked unreal. I mean, at featherweight, he's unreal. But that was the hardest fight Islam's ever had.
Yeah.
Other than the one that he's lost. But
I actually think it was a harder fight than the one he lost, probably, you know, because
he just got clipped.
Yeah. I mean, he was, I mean, it's like if you beat someone by decision, let's say you dominate someone for 5 rounds, that's a lot better sometimes than like submitting somebody early or you know, knocking them out early.
100%. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, look at Kamaru Usman against Leon Edwards. It's just dominates him, gets cracked, boom, end of the fight.
That was crazy, yeah.
that's that.
That was so crazy, man. Yeah, like Izzy, I mean, even if you look at when him and Dickus had the face-off, like he's not going to be that much smaller than what, I mean, he looked ready, like he looked basically like he was about to fight. Like he didn't cut that much, you know. And Pereira, dude, Pereira looked good at 205.
Oh, he looked so good, yeah.
He looked really, really good.
Yeah. And I mean, he's got the frame for it. I mean, that guy he's a big boy. He's a big guy. He's got the frame for it. And I think like, you know, if you're a big guy, you know, fight at a big weight category. You know, he's bigger than Jan. I mean,
yeah.
like, he's bigger than him.
That,
you know what I mean? Like it was like, damn. It's like, why are you killing yourself to make 185? And he's been a champion at
85.
Exactly. And he's been a champion at
Glory
at the division up. So like it makes total sense. Like fight at the and me too. Like, I mean, I fought when I was fighting K1 Muay Thai, I fought at 67, 70, 72, 74, 78, 80. I fought at all those weight categories. And you know, like I've always felt better at like 77, 76, you know, like in terms of like the weight category. And like in Thailand as well, sometimes like we wouldn't even weigh in, we just fight. You know,
whatever the weight is, the weight is.
You just kind of like look the same size and you guys will fight, you know. And so, you know, when you think about that, you're like, oh, those are some of my like, best performances because, you know, I wasn't having to drop weight, you know. It's like you feel,
your natural weight.
You feel better, yeah.
Dude, Thailand sounds like such a crazy place, man.
Yeah.
I mean, like some of the stories, my friend also went to Thailand, like some of the stories he was telling me like just on his holiday and like he did a bit of Muay Thai training there as well and stuff. It sounds like such a crazy place, man.
It's a wild place, man. It's crazy. It's like I guess like every place is like that, you know. Every place has a story. Like Cape Town's a pretty wild place too.
Yeah, that's true. When you think about it that way, like everything is pretty freaking crazy. Like, do you still have like contact with people in Thailand at all, or like if you, let's say like one of your fighters, I know obviously you've got the skill to teach somebody in Muay Thai, but like let's say you had somebody in mind and you were like, listen, I want you to work on this and that. Like, let's go to Thailand.
Yeah. So I years ago, a guy named Zero Gomba, I don't know if you know who he is. He's now like a 5-time world champion. He was training with me. And I was like, man, I know you can be a world champion for sure. Like I know you can be a world champion, but you're not going to get opportunities to fight here. So I set him up because I was at Tiger Muay Thai and I was very, very close to the guys there and the managers there that were there at the time. And I said, I've got a guy and this guy will be a world champion. Like he's fought Sanchai, like he's really good. He will be a world champion. So I sent him up there and sure as Bob became a world champion. He's a multiple time world champion. He's fought in like he's fought everybody. He's a killer. He's still fighting now. And so yeah, like I mean I know I don't know the guys who are running Tiger and stuff now anymore, but the guys before I did. But I still have contact with some of the guys that I used to train with there. There's a guy named Johnny Betts who's a English Muay Thai fighter there. He's one of the coaches there now. Then me and him still are in contact. But yeah, I think like, you know, if I ever had like a person that I thought like maybe you should get some overseas experience, you know. I know a few people, especially in MMA now, that we could send. I've actually got guys in Dagistan that have been asking me to come over and train.
Really? So
I'm 100% going to do my next like part of my training camp in Dagestan for sure.
Yeah, that'll be so sick.
I'm gonna go over and I'm gonna experience the culture. Dude,
that'll be so cool, man. That's so crazy. Like that's just a different. I mean, just a different mindset over there as well. You know, like I know. Like Yoel Romero was also talking about like there was a Dagestani wrestler. I forget his name. And then when he met Habibi, was like, oh, tell him I say hi. Like he invited me to come and stuff. That's so crazy, man. Dagestan, like that'll be sick. Like the stuff you learn there will be.
Yeah, I think it's important. You know, I've always done that. My entire life, I've traveled and trained and learned from people, and then come back and travel and train. Like I've trained in the US, I've trained in Europe, I've trained in Asia. You know, I've experienced like different guys. I've trained with guys from Dagestan, trained with guys from Chechnya, from the UK, from Sweden, from like all over the world. So. And every time you go, you like learn like a little something from them, you know. And I think like going to a place like Dagestan, which is like the mecca of fighting right now, you know.
Right now, yeah.
It'd be great to go there and experience the culture and see the way that they do things. Maybe you can bring over some of the lessons, you know, to bring to the next guys, you know. And I think like guys that do get the opportunity to travel should be doing that, you know. Wherever you go to travel to like do your fight or whatever you're there for. Go and train, learn something there because you'll learn something. It doesn't matter where you are, and then bring it back.
Yeah,
like that's what you should be doing. That's what I want to do. You know, I want to go there and you know see if I can bring something back.
Yeah, start using all those on everybody. Yeah. But that's the most important thing as well. I feel like obviously for your fighting career, like you learn what you like, skills that you need, but like to come and bring it back and give back, and it's like. You've always been doing that. I mean, like even like with MadFit, like that's obviously one of the reasons why you start MadFit, is like to impart those skills on the next generation into people. So, and the Dagistan, you know, that's just another tool in your arsenal. You know? So that's like learning the best of the best in Muay Thai, like the best of the best in wrestling. Or well, I mean, that's considered one of the meccas of wrestling. You know, the boxing as well, like jiu-jitsu. Now I got the Brazilian lineage and link and everything. Man, people in the future here, it's gonna be something special to see. It's gonna be serious. Ah, man, I really can't wait for it. Well, I think that's enough to wrap it over there, man. I know the last time we spoke for almost 2 hours, you know, so I almost feel like we'll do a part 3, you know, the next time. But I really
maybe
appreciate
when I'm back from Dagestan.
There'll be some crazy stories, man. But really, honestly, like I said to you the other, like some time ago on Instagram and stuff, like honestly, I still think, like, setbacks aside and all that, like honestly, I still think I've always thought you'd be a world champion, and like I still think you will be a world champion. And like I hope that everything goes smoothly for the next camp and everything. And and honestly, man, like I think you by the end of next year you will be a champion, world champion.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
I'm looking forward to it.
That's the plan.
Yeah. And thanks again for the time. I really do appreciate
anytime,
it.
Bro. It's always good to be here.
Well, thanks, Don. I really appreciate it, man.
Thank you, man.
Shot.
Good, man.
Cheers. Shot.